Hey guys,
Hi guys.
we are just getting ready. Some people are gonna hop on, and we are telling followers. Oh, yay! Hey, we
Hi
are. We're
guys.
just getting started with our first making comfort and joy,
We'll let you guys kind of hop on.
and we're gonna find Luigi here.
Let's see.
There. Hello. Did it click on it?
Hold on.
Oh, I think there's just so many people hopping on at the same time. There we go. Cool.
Great to see you guys.
Yay!
Hey,
Hi Luigi.
hi Melissa and Liz. Hi everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm trying to stay grounded and
Good. I'm hoping that this conversation is going to. I was thinking. I was like, okay, well, how am I going to be grounding for people? And I was like, this is. It's just going to be. Can people ground me? That's what I'm going to need. So people do the work for me. It's what I'm hoping.
well, I'll share a little trick from my singing days. Right before a concert or a performance, I was taught to take deep, long breaths just to calm, my nerves and try to relax. And also think that people in the audience were not there to criticize you, but they were there to love what you were about to sing. So I feel I already feel the love of your community. I just want to say you two have done an incredible job at building such an amazing community. And in general, I want to say I know I can speak on behalf of the Brooklyn Tree team as well. Um, we're so fortunate to be surrounded by so many great people. The knitting community is a great community filled with awesome people.
Perfect.
So good.
Yes. Awesome.
So good. We feel so grateful to be a part of the Brooklyn Tweed story, and
Yeah. It's.
I mean, it's always been I wrote about this in the blog post, but it's always been our dream to have Brooklyn Tweed on the shelves, but it's because it's more than just yarn. It feels so good to have know you and to have this and to have it feel more than just transactional and
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Thanks. Relationships are everything. I grew up, as people might have gathered from my name and not from my accent. I grew up in southern Italy in a beautiful town, small town, and southern Italy is spectacular. That's the stretch that goes from Rome all the way down to Sicily, and um, I love that part of the country. And people are so genuine there, and they just love the simple pleasures of life. But one thing I've learned in growing up in a small town, from my grandmother to my parents, they would always say, make sure you're good to everyone, because if you decide to spend the rest of your of your life in this town, these are going to be your friends and your relatives at some point. And so I've always felt that building relationships here is really the best thing you can do, because you get to know each other as people, and you realize how much in common we have, from struggles to joys and pleasures of life, the things we strive for, the things we try to achieve, and what kind of endeavor is really that fun if you do it by yourself or if you are not able to share that journey with someone. Even knitting, it's an introverted craft and passion, but then there's the joy of sharing with your friends, of wearing that hand knit things. And I have to brag for just a
Oh
second
my
here.
gosh! I love it.
So I have to say, this is Timberline, of course, by Jared. I have not knit this. My mother-in-law has, and I know how much she loves me, because it's an amazing sweater.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time to knit it. But I figured I would wear it. This is its official debut.
It's perfect
It's
on you too.
gorgeous.
That color and the fit just looks exquisite.
It's perfect.
She knows I'm a blue guy, so of course she did it in almanac. I wish I could give you a better, but it's just a beautiful sweater. I'm so grateful.
Is this its maiden voyage? the sweater, or no? You had it.
No.
Okay. Okay.
I think that my mother-in-law she's probably knit more Brooklyn tweed patterns than anyone I know, and she's always looking to get some more yarn. And I have to say, she's done so much knitting. She has a gift card going around, the sweater card going around for Christmas. And so when her oldest son, her second son turn came, he said, "Mom, how do you feel if I skip a year because I really want the Timberline?" And so my mother-in-law said, "Oh, that's too difficult of a sweater. We're not going to do that." But then eventually he said, "But can you imagine me when I'm 90 years old wearing this sweater and looking at my grandchildren?" Sold.
Oh, well played.
I love that.
That's amazing.
So I asked after, she had already challenged herself once, so I was lucky.
Right. That's easy now, right? That's great. Cool. Well, we thought too, so we thought we'd ask some questions, and then we'd love to have the viewers also kind of give their answers to these questions too, that Melissa can read out loud, and we can kind of interject this conversation with all 100+ people of us. We were just talking a little bit too, but Luigi, what are you finding this year that's been giving you, I guess, comfort and joy? What has been, or the things too, I'm interested to hear what might have surprised you. We've got some things that I thought knitting would have been more of my thing this year, but I couldn't even get my mind to my love of knitting. And so I've found some other surprising things that came along too.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question. I want to at least start with acknowledging what a tough year this has been for everyone in the world. It just seems to be one of those tests. And I certainly don't put any labels on it, because I think that with time we gain perspective of even things that we might find painful or challenging right now. Might have a merit, in the grand scheme of things, or like, oh, we learned that from that experience. Surprisingly, to answer your question, I think that the one thing that I started doing a lot this year is to have a better relationship with myself. And I felt that over the years, because of my performing background and teaching background, I've always been very outwardly. I'm an extrovert. I love people. I love learning from people, listening to stories. And I've often thought that, in listening to others and making sure that everyone around you is happy, you kind of fulfill your primary function. But I've come very, very quickly this year to realize that the thing where we hear about very often, which is, if your cup is empty, you're really not able to share with others. And so I really started with, I want to have a better relationship with myself. I don't want to bully myself. I don't want to manipulate myself. I want to be kind to myself. I want to hold space. I want to accept that I am imperfect. I am flawed. I'm a human being. And there are some days I feel really good about myself, and some days that I feel less good. But I want to always remind myself that it's a journey, it's a process, and you need to enjoy the journey. If you're a runner and you run a marathon, you just can't enjoy only the finish line, because otherwise you are miserable for 22 something miles. So I started with that. Reading has been a rediscovery. I was an avid reader up until like 10 years ago, and then my brain went into time to apply this to real life. And I've come back to reading music. And for someone who doesn't call himself comfortably a knitter, because I'm surrounded by some of the most amazing knitters at the office, I've also picked up the needles and started knitting the Fort pullover, because I wanted to challenge myself with the checkerboard. But most importantly, going back to relationships, I've made a point, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, to think back at all the people that have made an impact in my life, from my elementary school teacher to childhood friends, college friends. And I've made a point of reaching out to each and every one of them. And it was almost like the connection had never stopped. All of a sudden, I went from thinking, oh, we're all these great friends in my life, to thinking, oh my gosh, they have always been there for me. I just wasn't ready to access them. So that's what I've been focusing on. But I'm so curious to hear what everyone else says. Being
better person right now. I need to go talk to people and apologize right now. You're good. You're good, Luigi.
Oh, thanks. I didn't mean to, but no. I hope it's good.
Yes, very good. Very good.
I'm always crying, so whatever.
Hey, emotions are really good. Emotions are who we are, and that's perfectly fine. Those are the very essence of who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. And I mean, for us, I mean, there's been, I pine for knitting. I definitely pine for doing those things that we loved. And I even found myself today for something that I was pining for, and I've all of a sudden today I've made it into a schedule, which I kind of ruined what I was going to do. So darn it, I've already made it unfun. But definitely found music. We found some music that I'm just going to say it. I got into Post Malone a lot this summer. It happened, and it was really helping for a long time. And Melissa, you got into,
I mean, things that like, almost music that we would normally say like, oh, we both have.
It wasn't. Who knew?
Yeah, not the greatest,
Dave Matthews was always my thing. I mean, I was more, so I went a completely different direction. I needed something completely different to, because I was feeling different. I think I needed something very.
And are you mostly listening, or are you also expressing yourself with some singing?
Probably singing, mostly just dancing and listening to big beat and dancing. That's what I need. Those give me those endorphins. I need some sort of a bass to give me endorphins, and I find that is,
that's great. And there is some value in the creativity that we have all shown in how to make a connection during these times of social distancing, and the fact that people have realized the importance of the arts as a mean of expression, that they are now going to Zoom concerts or watching Zoom performances. I still have a lot of friends in the performing arts field, and gosh, at the beginning, I felt for them, because I know that the audience is your outlet, right? The performing space is your outlet. So how do you do that? We're lucky, if we're knitters, we have our yarn, we have our stash at home. And I know that, that's that's something that we can do. But by talking to each of them, something really, really authentic I've heard time and again, which is this has put us in touch with the real purpose. This has reminded us of why we want to be artists in our life, why we need to express ourselves, because it's a way to make an authentic connection with others. And interesting enough, it can be done over Zoom, over Instagram, over all the media that we have out there to be able to communicate and interact with each other. That said, I really hope that the pandemic will be over soon, for a number of reasons, including the ability to share space together, because there is something in the exchange of energy that's also so important. And I think you guys know, in terms of, having a class at the shop or having people come in and just spend that social hour, that's so important, right?
Yeah. I mean, it just even felt, a couple friends stopped in the other day to say hi that we haven't seen in forever. And it was so hard to even just acknowledge that. I was like, I'm not hugging them. I'm not hugging them. And do they feel like, I didn't even say it, but I was like, I should reach out. Did he feel hurt that I didn't even say I didn't get a hug from you? Like, I feel bad. It just feels like you miss hugging everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all of your best friends have probably a line of credit of hugs right now.
Right. Exactly.
and they'll start going into that. Yeah.
Yeah. When even just Melissa, when we were like, is it okay? Can we have a hug? We did not. Like, we had to, like, the first time we had to be like, it's time. We're gonna hug.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure that this is true for everyone who's right now in a remote working situation. The adjustment has been quick for everyone. You know, we decided to start working remotely about a week, 10 days before the official lockdown. So we felt good about prioritizing safety even before it was required or mandatory. And you know, Jared and I were thinking, gosh, we have no experience really. It's a small team, but nevertheless, you know, how do you handle communication, and how are we going to go about the work that we do on a daily basis? And you know, it's a small but very mighty team, and once again, you know, they just rose to the challenge like champions, because there was such a you know, a shared purpose, and a powerful shared purpose, which is, we're not going to let our customers down. We're not going to let other knitters down. We're not going to let our stores down. And so there was this amazing energy and resilience that we discovered in that situation. That makes me think, you know, we have some incredible qualities. Sometimes they're inside us, and it takes a situation like this to really challenge us and to allow us to tap into our very best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Someone just said about a knitting music group would be lovely, if just knitting and listening and discussing would be.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
We could even probably do that with some of our Saturday. We'll have to think of that, how we could add that to our Saturday morning Zoom.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. And one thing I can say about knitters, they know how to count. And to be a good musician, you need to know how to count.
Right. Right. How did you feel? I mean, are you comfortable at all? Would you sing a little something
a couple of
for
requests
us? Maybe. I mean, don't feel pressure, but
we're just
I will be honest with you guys. I stopped singing professionally 8.5 years ago, and I sing in a choir, but I haven't really kept up with the daily training that that a soloist really needs to stick to. But you know, I really am at a point where I also think, well, all of these wonderful songs from the area that I grew up, you know, in southern Italy, these beautiful Neapolitan songs, and songs that my grandmother taught me. So they have a special meaning for me. So lately, I've been a little more eager, or I guess open to the possibility of singing impromptu like this, because I feel like, you know, it's not opera. There's not going to be a critic out there thinking, oh, the tenor didn't do this, do that. So the answer is, if you guys you know, want to
yes, please.
Yes.
I guess you know, I can do something. Let's see. Ed intorno l'ombra vasto cuore che non può dormire, e canta gianni, amore, amore, tu mi fai morire. Ma si dosiente sta voce tremare, non querere, non facciamo. Io non canto per te, canto penate, ma non te voglio vedere come una volta. Io canto e moro per te, moro per te. Te voglio bene, sì, soltanto a te, Maria.
Oh my God! opera.
I was.
You're so wonderful. Thank you.
Well, knowing the two of you, I knew you would ask because you mentioned it the first times and you mentioned it the second time. And Luigi, how would you feel if we brought this up? So I figured I better sit behind the piano because I know those two.
That's amazing. I don't know why I didn't think that. Of course, you probably play the piano too, but that just. You know.
Well, just a little bit. I will say this: Jared is a much better pianist than me, and also a great sight reader. So it's really good if I sing and he plays. The only thing is he's really good at counting, so there is no liberty to stretch a note. You know, it needs to be right at tempo.
That must be so great to have something to do together too.
That's wonderful.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Absolutely. And we have joked a couple of times with some of our folks. So Kel Moore is a singer, and Alicia Mojica is a singer and sings in a choir. And we just have a group of really musically inclined people. So we were thinking, maybe we should do a little like Brooklyn Tweed choir and start having fun.
Let us listen. Like, could you just do a live so we could just like listen in? That would be really cool.
Well, if we do it, we certainly will share it with you guys. But music is important. Like everything that brings joy and comfort to your life is something that, you know, it doesn't matter if you do it professional or if you don't. You will always love what you do and get joy from it. And that's really, you know, when I think about making, there's a lot of times people, a lot of times I get asked a question about making. It doesn't really matter what you make. There is a joy. There's the joy of learning. There's the joy of the discovery through the process. There's joy of making something, whether it's making music or making a sweater or a cup, you know, for your coffee. It's interesting that, you know, I grew up in a culture where making things is a mix of necessity, but also part of a well-rounded upbringing. You know, my grandmother used to say something that it's very common. It's a common saying in Italy: learn the art and set it aside, as a way of saying, you know, when you learn something in life, it's never going to be useless. Whatever experience you go through, whatever thing you learn, even if in the moment is not an application, doesn't have an application, or it's not something you can utilize right away, you'd be surprised how many times that thing you've learned comes handy. And at some point in life, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I learned how to make crisp apple pie, because today I really feel that's going to bring a lot of joy to my afternoon, right?
Nice.
So keep making whatever you do, whether it's baking or knitting or pottery or whatever gives you joy. Don't forget how important that is to your well-being. That's what builds that's what helps you build a better relationship with yourself, I would say.
Yeah.
Impara l'arte e mettila da parte. That's right. Someone knows the Italian saying. They just posted it. They just commented in the Je m'appelle Chiara. Just spelled it in Italian. That's right. That's exactly what my grandmother used to say.
What does it mean? What does
it say verbatim? Or
it's learn the art and set it aside. And someone else said something about the tools and the toolkit. Yeah. So, what are your passions outside of knitting and fiber and music this year? What do you guys do to bring comfort and joy to your lives?
This year's we haven't been doing great on making that in our lives as much. We have great ideas of that. But like you've been doing a good job of taking walks and taking some time of like doing some of that in the evenings.
Yeah. And you know, in a traditional year, I read a lot. But you know, I read fiction mostly. But this year also, the surprising thing for me, poetry seems to be something that really has just you know, I've been able to read it well, and I should say I've been reading it for a couple of years, probably since I turned 35, where it felt like it just sort of unlocked for me poetry in general. I felt like I really didn't understand it maybe before then, but I can't seem to really get enough poetry these days. But in a normal year, I would read a lot of fiction. I had it on my list to read 50 books this year, and I was very well on my way. But you know, I just haven't been able to as much this year.
I've noticed I made a shift this year, which I guess is kind of it's kind of like you were saying, like making myself, is that I really got into, I'm not a reader. I struggle there, but I've really gotten into listening to blogs and listening to podcasts and some audiobooks that I keep going back to that are and I signed up for some classes that I've absolutely been loving doing every Friday from the Open Education, which have just been awesome, that I found on your guys's post about. That's how I got to that, and I've loved every single one of them. So it's just been, I've been very avid about just learning has been very interesting to me. I'm being a student, and I knew I always kind of I was inspired. I thought when I left college and wasn't doing anything with it, I thought, well, when I got into this world, I was like, I think I might go back like for agriculture or something. You just felt like I want to learn more about or whatnot. So I never did any additional schooling. So I felt like this has been a year that I've like, all I want to do is learn. I want to get into these books, and I want to keep learning those things. I want to get into those classes. So it's been, I guess that's the thing. It's been more, you leave those like learning and crying, and like, you know, it hasn't been comfort as much as comfort of just like, now I know. That's been more my comfort, is just like adding more layers to what I know. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, both things resonate with me, and I know with Jared as well, so much. So poetry, it has this incredible power of distilling, you know, distilling the word down to the very core concept that you're trying to express. And so you actually find yourself reading a poem that could be 10 lines total, but you're looking at this poem for a couple of hours because every word is so intentional. And so in many ways, I find, you know, that poetry is kind of like what balsamic vinegar is to regular vinegar. It's like the distilled version. Every word is this heavy drop that comes out of the bottle. I also want to say about learning, I feel exactly the same this year. It's almost as if this whole year and this whole experience that we have gone and are going through has kind of reset my mental schemes, my mindset, my way of thinking. It's almost as if I just turned 40 this year, and I feel, instead of having a midlife crisis or any sort of, I'm feeling, you know, I feel like a 5-year-old that doesn't know anything. I just want to relearn. I just want to, and I think that's such a wonderful feeling. It's certainly very very energizing. So to your point, I've been thinking about, you know, maybe I'll take some classes online. There are things I would like to learn about. I love gardening, so I would like to learn a little more about plants and flowers, but also landscaping techniques. I'm trying to think, how can I do a front yard in a way that doesn't require too much water, so a water efficient system. And all of these things are things that I probably wouldn't have given myself the time or the space before, because there is this feeling of you are in production mode, and so you were working, not necessarily always like a hamster on a spin wheel, but it feels like, you know, there is a rhythm to your life, and you are kind of afraid to break that rhythm. And then I read this book very recently. I hope we can talk about. I'm not. It's not like a plug. I don't know the guy. I wish I knew him directly, but his name is Michael Singer, and he wrote this beautiful book called The Untethered Soul. And there is a chapter 13, which I've read probably 20 times already. And the title of the chapter is Beyond, Far Beyond. And it talks about all the things, all the systems that we build in lives to prevent ourselves from suffering or experiencing pain. It's an automatic reaction. If we know that something is going to create some discomfort, we build a defense system on this side, and then we build a defense system on that side. But it's almost like building a house to protect yourself, and soon enough you're actually a prisoner in that house. And what's preventing you from getting out of that house is the fear of what might happen once you get outside. And so it talks about how in reality that fear is limiting you. It's not allowing you to expand. And it's only when you are able to accept that sometimes discomfort, challenges, or pain are part of the journey that real growth happens. And when you grow that much, you also are able to minimize the impact of fear on your life. And that's when you really expand. That's when you go beyond, far beyond. I kid you not, this chapter alone has definitely had such a profound impact on me in terms of how many things do we do without knowing why we do them. And there's a line that's brilliant in my opinion. If you want to understand why you do the things you do, stop doing them for 2 or 3 days and analyze how they make you feel. Then you start digging deeper and deeper on the reasons why you do things. And a lot of times you realize, there is no reason why I should be afraid of this. There is no reason why I should have fear when it comes to this thing. And it's incredibly stimulating, very thought-provoking, and yet so liberating, because it's almost, going back to a line that I think summarizes a little bit this concept, which was said by FDR back in the days. The only thing to fear is fear itself. And that kind of summarizes it, but I think that at times you hear a line like this and you can't really put it into a broader context. And this book for me put it into a broader context. There is no point in living your life afraid or with the fear of experiencing life in its fullness, because life in its fullness, it's all of these things. It's not just the good things or the bad things. It's all of them together.
Yeah. That's awesome. A lot of people were saying, listening to birds. And I remember that being something that I was reading in one of my books, one of the medical medium books, where he was talking about just the beauty and how it just heals the soul. And actually taking the time to actually just sit and listen. Like, we have birds around here, and sometimes you just forget that you're listening to them. And I remember actually Rebecca, our sister on stage, she sent a video of just listening to her birds because she has so many trees, and just even listening to a recording, even a bad recording of birds is like uplifting. So that is something I'll have to do some more of that.
Being out in nature is another thing. We're so fortunate here in Oregon to have access to this incredible nature, but there are so many beautiful spots throughout the country and throughout the rest of the world. I also find very it's always a source of tremendous growth for me to travel and to far and near. It doesn't have to be necessarily over the pond, to just meet new people and explore new things and learn new things and understand that each of us is so unique, and it's the ensemble of those uniquenesses that makes every place so different. Even if it's within the same state or within the same country, it's just so mind-opening to be able to explore other dimensions and other realities. And it's humbling too, because at times we get set in our own ways and think that we know it all, we figured it out, we know how this needs to be. There's only one way of doing things. But one of the most beautiful American expressions that I've learned is there are 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And I hope it's only, you know, figuratively. I don't want anyone to skin a cat, but I just love the expression because it's kind of a reminder of there are so many ways of doing things. And when you look at knitting, for example, for people that are introduced to this craft, after a while they learn about Icelandic knitting, and then they learn about Estonian knitting, and they learn about all the knitting traditions around the world, from the Shetland linelet to, you know, the US. And you realize,
ways of, like, we had just in a small group a couple years back, I think we were all throwers, and we each sat and looked around and we're like, how was everyone a thrower here doing something completely different? It still looks so different from everybody that even is technically the same thing. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I feel that the things you learn with knitting are just, you know, they continue to amaze me. I've been on this journey with Jared and the team for 7 years now, and it feels it's just been like this, you know. It feels yesterday when I decided to embark on this, and it's as meaningful as it was 7 years ago. And in fact, it's probably more meaningful for me because I feel that I've contributed myself to this vision that Jared set forth 10 years ago with, you know, Shelter, this breed specific American made yarn and all of that. And the things I've learned about knitting and knitters have become kind of general guiding principles for me in life. For example, there is the aspect of enjoying the process. You know, if you want to buy a ready-to-wear thing, you're not a knitter. You are a knitter because it's knitting that you enjoy doing. It's that journey that eventually, yes, will bring, you know, the final result and you can wear it. But it's the memories that you associate to that knitting experience. You know, at times I hear people around the office saying, oh, you know, I remember that I was knitting the sweater when I was expecting my first child. You know, so there's that vivid memory of that part of your life. It's like when you listen to a song that identifies or defines a very specific time of your life. You know, like when I was 22 years old, I remember that song came out and this is where I was and this is what I was doing. There is also an aspect of learning from your own mistakes, which is so humbling because, you know, at the beginning, if I was making a mistake, I would say, oh, but, you know, I'm not going to go back and undo these 2 rows just to fix this stitch. And I would often hear from more experienced knitters, oh, Luigi, it's going to bother you. It's going to bother you. You know, you're going to go back and
Bother you?
Okay. and then I realized, okay, yeah, you know, I see the value of mistakes happen. They're part of the process, but you can go back. And I think that the aspect of taking the time to go back to undo those rows, which is painful, you know, no one loves frogging. It's sort of like a way of saying, okay, maybe next time you'll pay a little more attention, or maybe next time you know what to look for. And you know what I love about knitting, and I hope I'm not getting too philosophical either. It's 2 things: knitting and purl, right? 2 stitches, and there is this variety of combinations of styles, of cables, of techniques, of things that you can achieve. And in the middle of all of this, every stitch, even in a sweater as big as this, every stitch counts the same, and they're all connected to each other. So I really have thought, I have thought over the course of the years that there are so many principles that I want to take out of knitting and make general life guidelines. And so far, I'm so grateful for all the things that I've learned from this experience. No question.
Yeah. Well, and just
what about you guys?
I'm just real quickly, the philosophy you have is got to be so amazing to be able to inject into a company. Is just got to be amazing, because a lot of people want to be able to have some of that, or don't know even that they're missing it. But like, I mean, I would take a Luigi for wool and honey right now. Like, it's beautiful. It's really great to have that mindset, and to just, you can tell that you live this constantly, that it's just because you've done the work for so long of doing that now it's just second nature. It's just all of these great messages are constantly connecting to, and that does, even using them.
And that does create a stronger team and a stronger community. And but by being able to do that work first, initially inward with you, then your family, then your team. I mean, that's really, that's what makes this, that's what has made Brooklyn Tweed such, you've infused this community with such an amazing presence that we can be stronger. Also by learning from our mistakes. I mean, that's a big part of what we need to,
and I think that's so much what inner work does when we do that, when we're taking the time, they're like, I want to learn, I want to do work, and open our minds to that, is like, we do just start seeing, we're like, where it applies, where we're like, it applies here, it applies here. We just start seeing where we can use all of these things. That's really cool. Yeah, really great.
Well, thank you. I also think you're giving me way too much credit. I really am. I'm really fortunate to be surrounded by some very intelligent, thoughtful, wise people, generous in their advice, who really care genuinely about each other. And that it really is true about our team, about Jared, the way he approaches ideas or makes decisions, or as you know, put this vision forth in a way that resonates with us, is because there is a sense of, let's share this journey rather than try to outdo each other. This is really for the good of the community. And then there is all of you guys out there. I mean, I learned so much from each of you. You are small business owners, and that's in general not for the faint of the heart. And here you are in the middle of a pandemic, thinking about your community, how you can take care of them, how can you bring some comfort and joy. So there is a level of generosity going around, and that I'm surrounded by, that it would be strange if I didn't find that contagious, you know. And it makes you feel, it makes your life feel abundant. That's another really game changer, when you are able to keep that circular quality of the giving and the receiving. When you are able to receive a gift and pass it on, then you really just feel like, you know, things are flowing through you. And generosity is genius, you know. And it's not like generosity, I'm going to give, you know, some money away, or I'm going to do this so that this person likes me. But it's more about, you know, how can I put things that can help others available out there, the way others have helped me or have made the difference for me. You know, I'm fortunate to be a small business owner like you two. But I don't forget that 14 years ago, I came here to this country as a young artist and as an immigrant, as someone who really wanted to pursue this dream, and came to the States and was very excited about the possibilities and the opportunities, and didn't know anyone, didn't have a penny. And, you know, you can say that, yes, I put in the time, and that I've worked like everyone else does, and I've applied myself. But trust me, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have an avalanche of people out there looking out for me, helping me, supporting me, encouraging me, saying, believing in me. And so, I just can't forget that. So if I can do to others what others have done for me, that would make me feel good, because then I didn't stop. I wasn't like the place where the gift stopped, but I'm actually the place where the gift continues to go on. And that's really what inspires me personally in my professional journey. I don't think necessarily of how can I stop this energy, or how can I capture all of it.
Right.
I'm thinking more in terms of how can more people participate into this?
Yeah.
How can we strengthen this? And it's very fulfilling for me, and it's a journey in and of itself, because when you realize that we are wired to be social and to be together and to interact with each other and to build these relationships, that's when you build a community. That's when you feel, there is an uplifting amount of energy that all of a sudden you are part of, that you wouldn't have been able to generate by yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. And that's what I think, that's been one thing that has been one lesson that's been beautiful, or just watching the process of our world going into such a scary place, horrible things happening, and in the same day of having such lows, seeing such beautiful highs that were so over the top that you just couldn't even imagine were so beautiful in the same day, in the same hour, that just like that emotional roller coaster every day was just like, you're so grateful and so horrified at the same time, that it's like, what I've been so grateful for this year of just lessons, and just being able to like really learn so much, instead of, and I'm so grateful that I'm taking it this way, instead of so many people that are like, this is the worst, that it's been a place where it's like, it took a place where to shake us out of being so much in our routine, being so much of just being in it. This is our plan. Here's our 5-year, our 10-year goal, and this is what we're going to do. But getting to a place of being actually shaken out of it, and to see so much more giving happening than we were doing last year, than we were doing years before, and how much connecting we're doing. Even though we're apart, we're remembering how important something was that we lost a while ago. So it's been such a great year for those kind of basics.
And that does feel like a gift, a silver lining of any sort that there is, that with it feels good to reach out to other people, and what that can be when we are together in that feels really, really wonderful. And that is to say, that doesn't mean that,
because a lot of them feel much more heartfelt, more than just like they're getting together for a reason, or what's the kick, or what's someone getting. Like, it does feel so much more of it. It feels genuine. It feels like we really desperately want, like when you hear about how many hundreds of masks one person made to give away, that you're like, that is just insane. And all kind of things, that it wasn't for a freebie, it wasn't for a trip, it wasn't for something like, it's been.
I absolutely, the examples of human beings at their best in the last 6, 7, 8 months since the lockdown started have been numerous in every field. I just learned yesterday of an initiative of a charitable foundation that made masks with transparent sections around the mouth for people who are deaf, so that they can actually read someone else's lips. And I think, wow,
right? It's amazing.
This is amazing. This is what excites me about being a human being, is that someone can think so much besides themselves, and think, well, if I'm talking to a deaf person right now, or someone who is hard of hearing, how are they going to understand me if my mouth is covered by a mask? So why don't we facilitate that? And wouldn't you agree that if we are able to, and I know we are, but it requires a little bit of effort, because it's that balance, right, between wanting to be able to take care of yourself and, look out for yourselves and the ones you love ones, which is important. That's what we build our independence on. But it's also this mindset that if we, if we each did something good for others in society, as I was saying, that good comes around. Someone will do something good for you, and that's really what I think distinguishes this community. People ask me, how did you go from opera to to knitting and yarns? And that's a whole book right there. One day I'll have fun and with someone's help. Oh, with your guys' help. I mean, you two are
Melissa,
incredible writers. I mean, I know your followers know this, your community knows this, but you two are incredible writers. So maybe when and if the day comes, I'll share my journey, the big change in my life in with your help. But essentially, what I want to say is that for me, it's very important that there is an authentic purpose in what I do, and that I can make a difference, and that I can contribute in ways that are meaningful to me. And I was deaf. I always loved singing, and I still love singing, but I wasn't necessarily fulfilled by the lifestyle of a performing artist. It's a lonely life. You're living outside of a suitcase. You're going from one city to another. But speaking of experiences, though, that you bring with yourself for the rest of your life, learn the art and set it aside. The grandmother saying, this has also taught me to work with a different set of colleagues every production, which happens 2 or 3, every 2 or 3 months. It has taught me to learn and memorize music in different languages, to learn foreign languages, to follow the instructions of a conductor or a director. It has taught me that when you have the spotlight on you, you have a great responsibility, but that responsibility comes with great humility, because A, that's not about you. B, you wouldn't be there if you didn't have 200 people backstage who are operating the lights and who are making the costumes and who are playing in the orchestra pit. So all of these things I've definitely treasured from my opera experience. And then I felt like this was such a magical transition for me, because this community is all about sticking together, and trying to embrace a way of living and a way of interacting with each other, which is single-handedly the reason why I am so proud of the work that we do, because I think we serve an incredible community, an incredible group of people. And if we needed a proof, the last 8 months have been an undeniable proof of the incredible things that our community has been able to express.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Wonderful. We just have a couple minutes left, and I don't want to just all of a sudden have to click end. But I am going to put, as we promised, I'm going to put in a little link here I'm going to put in a little link here. Okay, I'm not. So instead of doing the link, I am going to do, how does this go away? There we go. I'll just tell you guys where you can do the drawing, the entry for the drawing. So if you go to the website, thewoolenhoney.com, and then under events, you'll see making Comfort and Joy giveaway. And then you can sign up there tonight for another hour. And we'll be giving that lovely gift basket of
It'll
comfort.
be something that when you get this, you can hold it in your hands. You can think about Brooklyn tweed. You can think about shelter, Jared's first dream.
Got the tote bag.
And it's blue. We have this blue yarn, so then it's not almanac, but so you can think about.
Oh, is it flannel?
Yep. And
cool.
yeah, and then some comfort, there's a tea mug and the pictures of just our area up here, which is all of our comfort and joy too. Yeah. Thank you so much, Luigi. This has been, I'm going to
amazing.
rewatch this myself.
I wish that we could, I wish that we could chat for so much longer. I wish that we could do it in person, but this is the.
I wish I could pay you to be my therapist.
Please come and
we will.
A concert.
We will do this in person. I promise.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, I want to say that I'm honored that you guys invited me. I'm honored that I got to interact with your community, and I'm sure that they all love you. You are fantastic human beings, and you're doing a fantastic job for your community. And hold space for yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle, and build this great relationship with yourself, because if you have a full cup, we get to enjoy some of the content in the cup. So keep up the great work, and a big hug to everyone, even though it's a virtual hug. I have hugs galore to give, so please accept my hug.
Yes.
And give ours to Jared.
Yes,
too. To
Jared and Kel and the whole team.
And,
yes, tell them we say hi.
And Allison and everyone.
Yes.
Just thank you. Thank you for being there. For
I will
us.
do.
Thank you all for coming and hanging out with some comfort and
so
joy.
much.
This was beautiful. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao. Ciao.